This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Monday, April 17th, 2006, and this is episode number 88 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from mgmstudios.org. On today's show, we have Len Testa, co-author of The Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome, Len.
Howdy-ho, Matt. How's it going?
Outstanding. We also have Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
Oh, pardon-moi. I'd like you all to meet my assistant. She's bold, she's brassy, she's self-contained, all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. Please welcome the self-programming, circumvisual photo droid. Let's say hello to Nine Eyes.
That was short intro?
That was short.
For me, that was short. Hi, Matt.
And we also have Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, guys. How you doing tonight?
Great. And on the show today, we also have Becky, who's a former Disney cast member who also portrayed Princess Aurora, as well as Chip and Dale, Gus Gus, and Susie and Perla. Welcome to the show, Becky.
Hi.
On today's show, we're going to be discussing with Becky the intricacies of being a character, most notably Aurora, who is obviously a princess character and one of the more popular characters at Walt Disney World. And I guess first off, Becky, you know, you're a girl from New England. How did you end up working in Walt Disney World and portraying Princess Aurora?
Well, it was actually a pretty long journey. I was going to school at Northeastern University and saw posters for the Disney College program. My family were big Disney people, so seemed like a pretty good idea to go to the meeting. Interviewed, ended up getting a costuming hostess down in Orlando, working in the parks, dressing the characters. And about halfway through my program, I heard about auditions. And a friend of mine, we decided to go together, my friend Adam, who is also very short like me. We had this joke that we were going to go and be Peter Pan and Wendy. And we didn't really think anything of it and think that the auditions were really going to bring anything more than a laugh. But I ended up getting the part of Princess Aurora and training for it and doing that for about 2 to 3 months before I came home and finished school. So,
Did you, before this, were you a Princess Aurora fan? Who was your favorite princess?
Gee, I don't know. That's a tough one. I would say that probably Princess Jasmine was my favorite.
Really?
Honestly.
What?
But I definitely had memories of watching Sleeping Beauty a lot when I was younger, and you have to watch the movie before you can go out in the park and actually interact with guests. So watching the movie was interesting. I'd never realized I must have watched it a lot when I was little because I knew all the words. So it was a very interesting job and a lot of fun.
What kind of training did they make you go through, Becky, to be a face character? I mean, did they tell you, like, don't beat the children and stuff like that?
Did you have to learn did you have to learn how to dance with owls?
Yeah. Believe it or not, you start off with training for the fur characters. You have to be able to do both.
Oh, really?
Fur character training is very intensive. It's like 2 weeks. And they bring you through all the rules, you know, don't sit down in costumes, you know, never talk. They bring you out in the park in the fur costumes, and they have you interact with the guests with another group of trainees so that you're all kind of figuring this out together. And then from there, after you've worked a couple of weeks as a fur character, they'll schedule you for your face training. And then face training is, depending on the character, it's more intensive. Obviously, characters like Mary Poppins or Alice in Wonderland, they need to learn a British accent. But Princess Aurora is pretty simple. It's a 2-day training. They show you your video. They teach you your autograph. They give you a small booklet that tells you all about your character, key phrases that you should try to use in conversation with guests, and a list of no-nos, like you can't say wicked or cool, awesome, anything like that. You really have to try to get into character and talk like a princess from the 15th century. And then on your second day, you get fitted. You get taught to put your makeup on. You get fitted for your wig, and you get to go out and talk with guests, which is kind of nerve-wracking your first time. They videotape you so that you can go back in and watch yourself and see how you did, and then
Really?
a couple more times. And really kind of get it down before they let you go off on your own. So, yeah, it's an interesting process. You know, you wouldn't think that it would be that complicated, but Disney really wants to make sure that you're ready before they trust you with their guests. So,
Scoba?
Becky, I have a question for you. Could you give us your Princess Aurora voice right now?
I don't even know if I remember it.
Well, what would you give us something that you would say?
So, Mike, pretend you're walking up to her and you want an autograph.
Wait. Can we have
But don't do the giddy girl thing that you normally do. Go ahead.
Wait, can we have the Lenora impersonation first?
Look, it's that guy
from New Hampshire. Oh no! Someone find the beast. I mean, hi Mike, how's it going?
Where's my attorneys?
Go ahead.
Oh my god.
Well, what we would usually start off with is just saying, well, hello there, and how are you today, princess? Something along those lines, and you just really play up the prince and princess, and a lot of the times they would tell you a good line to say would be, you ask where they came from, and suppose they said Chicago or something. Well, that's an awful far carriage ride away, isn't it? And little things like that, and it makes the kids laugh. Because obviously they came in an airplane. You have to act like you don't know what an airplane is, you know.
Right.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Becky, did being from Massachusetts, do you have any Massachusetts accents that do you say like certain words, with a inflection in your voice because you're from Massachusetts?
I do.
That you
I
have
slip in and out of it just because I've lived in Florida now twice and really got picked on for the accent, so I've dropped a lot of it, but when I'm around my family, it really comes out.
So you never dropped like a Habad Yad like when you were in character?
No, I tried to stay away from that. I did know a girl who was from Alabama though, and she had a really hard time. She was Princess Aurora with a southern twang. So.
You look lovely, y'all. Lovely, y'all.
Now, Becky, how are the cast members coded to determine like eligibility to perform? Because you have to be like have certain seniority or something to perform in shows or parades. Is that right?
Yes, there's a color coding system. It's another audition that you go through. I never went through it because I was only there for a couple of months, but it's another dance audition, and you go through a system of dance steps that get progressively more difficult, and based on how you do, they code you. I don't remember the colors exactly, but I think red is the highest, and yellow is the second, and then green and blue. And depending on that, you're eligible for certain shows. There's color coding, but there is also definitely a seniority thing. Girls that have been there for longer will be more likely to be picked up for those shows. Even after you've gone through the color coding, you have to be sort of asked to train in certain shows or put in for a request. And then they'll see whether they'll put you in it or not, just depending on, how many princesses they need for the day parade or something. Then they'll pick up another one. So.
Hey, Becky, I have a quick question. When you guys get fitted for like your costumes and stuff, is that like a simple process? There's just something off the rack, or do they fit each of the costumes to you?
I think it's a little different now than when I did it. They have them set up for you in the morning. There's just a rack with 5 or so of each size, and you used to be able to just kind of go in and pick it out yourself. You can still do that, I think. But they'll have it set up for you sometimes in the morning.
So they've got like an Aurora outfit in a size 2, and they've got an Aurora outfit in a 4.
In a 4, and a 6, and an 8, and they have a couple of them for each. Some of the girls that have been there for a while and do a lot of TV appearances and stuff like that, they'll kind of have their designation. You're still allowed to wear it if they're not working that day. But if you've been there for a while, you have the costume that fits you best. I was always wearing other people's, so.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have one more quick question then too. So give me an example of like what was a good day for you as a princess, and then what was a bad day as a princess.
I mean,
I imagine a bad day would be like kids yakking up on you, or
right.
Knowing that Stopo was in the park again. Go ahead.
I would say that every day had its good and bad. In all honesty, it just depended on the guests. I know that the most difficult day that I can remember was Christmas Eve. There was just a lot of people in the park, and it's really difficult when there's that many people, and there were probably 5 of us face characters on Main Street, and we had one greeter, which you're supposed to have a greeter for each character.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to maintain the crowds when you're also supposed to maintain a smile and a friendly disposition, and they're being pushy or impatient because the line is all the way down the street, you know.
Right.
A good day in general is just, you know, having a lot of really great kids that really appreciate the character and really get wrapped up in it and believe what you're doing. But every day brings the people that care and really make you smile, and the people that aren't really into the whole thing and they're just kind of there for the picture and the autograph, and the kids are cranky or whatever. So it's a mixed bag, you know.
Oh, that's neat.
Becky, I want to extend that question a little bit further. I would guess that there are people who will be listening to this podcast who are probably planning a vacation, maybe their first vacation down there, possibly their first vacation to Walt Disney World with their children. And I was going to ask you if you could give them any advice regarding interacting with the characters, be it a face character or a fur character. What would you give them for advice that would make the experience rewarding for both them and the character, and the cast member, I should say?
Yeah, like what's a good sized tip, you know, for a princess after an autograph?
Well, I mean, it's important. We're all trained to understand that not every child is going to react to the character the way you think that they're going to. And, you know, parents just need to be aware of their children and understand that they're not always going to like this big Chip and Dale, or a lot of little boys don't like the princesses. And, you know, we know how to deal with them, but if they really want the best situation for their child, you know, not to push them into the situation, really try to ease them into it rather than shoving them up next to you and making them take a picture. I've had kids be forced to take pictures with me, and it makes it difficult to smile when they're crying, you know. But the character thing can be an amazing day. You could spend a whole day looking for characters, and as long as you're ready to really interact, you can have a lot of great family memories, a lot of great pictures, and you know, just really work with them. And obviously, we respond better to people who are responding well to you, and that ends up bringing back good memories for the family and good memories for the character, remembering that guest that really enjoyed being near you and taking the picture with you. So.
And Becky, what experiences have you had that differ being, say, a fur character such as a Chip or Dale, which are actually still kind of popular, maybe even take it down a notch like to a Gus Gus or a Perla? Is that any different?
So you've got your own ranking of characters, do you?
Oh,
Hushford.
I do. There's
okay.
I think Becky would back me up on it, that not all characters are created equal.
It's still an interesting, you know, it's work. So it's a fun job no matter what. You're playing with kids all day, and you really can't complain about it. Some days when you've done Aurora for 4 days in a row and you've been talking and smiling nonstop, it's really nice to do a fur character and not have to talk and not have to put your all into it. I mean, you still have to keep up the whole character charade and be really animated, but I don't have to now come up with things to say to people. And a Susie and Perla especially, I mean, when there's less attention on you, sometimes it's a nice little break to be able to not have to be putting it on 100% all the time like you do when you're a face character. I mean, it can get difficult when you're out there for an hour and you've had cranky people and you just, you know, you can't ever not be in the mood to work. You have to always be happy.
Right.
So it's a nice break sometimes. I never felt like I didn't want to go and do Susie and Perla. They were just as fun, just in a different way, you know?
Yep. Now, Becky, when you're not portraying fictional characters, you're actually a graphic artist. And tell us a little bit about some of the work that you've done, and some of the work actually some guests in the parks might have seen. Is that right?
Yes, that is true. I just returned from my second internship at Walt Disney World in January. I was there for about 7 months, and I worked in Walt Disney Entertainment Design. They do the set and scenic design for parades and the shows around property, as well as the special events in the parks. I got the opportunity to do some environmental graphics around the park for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party and Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I actually started doing an intern project designing banners that hung over the Main Street lampposts, and the art director for these special events asked if I would like to see them in the park, and of course I said yes, that'd be awesome, and ended up designing those banners that were on Main Street for both events. So it was
Wow.
a
They actually
great
been in the park?
opportunity. Yes, they were in the park, and the Christmas ones were filmed for the ABC parade as well. So.
Do you have like a picture of them? I'd like to see them.
Yeah, I do. My father has a whole bunch of them on.
Of course he would.
I'm sure I can send them to you guys. He's very proud.
Excellent.
Um,
We're gonna have to find those on Mouse Surplus.
yeah, I bet. Does I have an offbeat question for you, Becky? Here, have you ever? At what point do you tell your boyfriend that you are in fact Princess Aurora?
I don't know. Yeah, it's always interesting when it comes up in conversation. I mean, it's been 3 years since I was down there, so it's all kind of faded now. My friends roll their eyes when they hear the "I'm a princess" comment. They're like, I try to use it still to get my way, but it's kind of old. Try to use it around the house too, but yeah, it's not working.
Is it a hindrance when like dating? Is it like, I used to be a princess, and the guy's like, I just can't take that.
No, some guys don't care, and some get really excited and they tell everybody, that they're dating a princess.
This is Becky. She's my girlfriend. She's a princess. That would go over pretty well. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great to be able to do that. Do you have any preference for the fur characters? Which one you prefer to play of the ones that you've done?
Honestly, Susie and Perla, and only because they're cooler. They're just a cooler costume, so you're not overheating the whole time.
I guess this maybe you can clear up a urban myth of Disney, if you will.
Sure.
Are there any insulation inside those suits, the fur character suits? Like air conditioning of any, like cooling, anything?
No, I mean, they have the new ones that they have now, some of the inflatable ones that have a fan only because they're inflatable. The only system that they use, and a lot of people don't use it, sometimes people use it in the parades, are ice packs that can be flipped into the body pads. That's the only sort of cooling system. A lot of people don't even bother with it because it's more of a pain than anything else. I've only seen parade performers use them.
So when it's 90 degrees out and 100% humidity, you're telling me that they opt not to put in the ice packs?
Yeah, I'm not. You're only out there for a half hour, usually tops, maybe a little over a half hour, and you wear what they call basics underneath your costume, which is shorts and a t-shirt, and there are fresh ones as soon as you come off. So I worked inside a lot, which was really lucky for me. But no, people don't usually use the ice packs. There's not a lot of them available. And even if they are, I think in general people felt like they didn't really help, and it was one extra pad that you were having to strap to yourself. So
Great. And quickly, Becky, did you just work in Magic Kingdom, or did you work in other parks?
Characters now are global, so if you're a character, you work everywhere. As Aurora, she's mostly in the Magic Kingdom, so that's really, when I was Aurora, I worked in the Magic Kingdom the most. When I did Chip and Dale, I'd kind of be all over the place. I did Aurora and Epcot for the Princess Breakfast. Other than that, I was in the Magic Kingdom with her. So.
Great. Well, Becky, it was great having you on. I'm sure we could bring you back on again to talk about some of the, I mean, we focused a lot on Princess Aurora here, but I mean, Chip and Dale are certainly some
Right.
Interesting characters. Actually, before we go, I have one question I just thought of. What percentage of characters are underneath? Well, obviously, the face characters is pretty obvious, but under the fur characters, what percentage are guys and what percentage are girls?
Oh,
Would you
geez.
say?
I mean, I probably couldn't give you percentages, but
I mean, is it
I'd say
50-50?
the majority of they're probably girls, only because a lot of the characters are supposed to be short. So the majority of the characters are supposed to be about, 5'3" and under. So that falls mostly in the girl range. And then there's guys that do characters like Goofy and stuff that are taller. So.
Great. Well, again, Becky, thanks for coming on to talk with us. We'll have to have you back at some point to talk some more.
Definitely. Thank you very much for having me.
Anytime. And that's it for us today. This has been episode number 88 of Walt Disney World Today. If you want to find older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com. You can also email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. You know the email.
Outstanding.
Outstanding.
For Lentessa, Mike Scopo, Mikey Newell, and Becky, I'm Matt Hodgeberg. We'll see you on the next show.